We believe that all faith traditions have something to teach us about how God is working in the world and in our lives. So we're exploring Turkey and hopefully learning to understand each other and even God better for having spent time to listen, learn, and be amazed.
One of the reasons I'm so excited to be here in this Church of St. Basil in the area is because early Christians, first they were going to their synagogue still, but then they were kicked out. They were persecuted. The only way they would meet, and we read this in the New Testament, someone perhaps would have a house that was big enough, and so they would hold regular meetings and what we would call church services. They would come together, they would have the communion or the sacrament of the bread and the wine. But this is one of those places where the early Christians start getting together, and now they have their own space, which is the beginning of a church. And so they would have a place they could come to be able to hold those services that was dedicated for that purpose, not just meeting in someone's home.
And so being able to spend time thinking about these early Christian spaces, whether they be homes where you're walking through a first century house and then walking through a Domus Ecclesia or a later basilica, it's really remarkable, I think, to connect with the faith and the religious worship experience of our predecessors in ancient Christianity. And so as I study sacred space generally, whether it be the ancient Jerusalem temple, early synagogues, early house churches, or these beautiful monumental basilical churches, it really recalls some of the scholarship on sacred spaces, which focus on kind of three main things that sacred space does. It allows for the encounter with the divine, it allows for community formation, and then personal transformation. And for me, all three of those categories can be experienced in so many of these different spaces. For example, community formation. One of my favorite metaphors that early Christians use for their gathering is that they are the new household of God, right? Because originally, this is going to be a group that's fairly socially marginalized. It's a cultural or religious minority community within the larger Roman Empire, and using space, especially household space, to look at each other as brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers within the household of faith is a really powerful way that space can foster that community formation. So on the one hand, it is encountering the divine, maybe recalling the metaphor of a new temple where God's presence can be felt and encountered. But on the other hand is also about community formation. I'm part of a group, I'm part of a fellowship, I'm part of a family of faith. And these spaces and the rituals that are often performed in these spaces, whether they be ancient or modern, can be a very powerful mechanism to do all three of those things.
Join us at the Crossroads of Faith, a special series Sunday on BYU Radio and the In Good Faith podcast.